Chapter 7: The Era of Federal Social Services, The New Frontier and the Great Society. 1945 was the year World War II ended and a new era began for America. During Roosevelt's term, he avoided making changes to domestic policy while fighting World War II. This changed under the presidency of Harry Truman, when the Cold War drove the annual United States military budget from $10 billion to $40 billion. This massive spending consumed roughly 68% of the United States' overall federal budget. This left only a small percent of the federal budget to be spent on domestic affairs, and many social reforms were placed on the back burner. Social reforms during Truman's era was slowed down even further by the racial tension between blacks and whites caused by the termination of the Fair Employment Practice Commission and the rejection of other civil rights legislation. Eisenhower's presidency began in 1953 and lasted for the next 7 years. He was elected on a promise to end the war in Korea. Eisenhower led a reform of Social Security, which expanded benefits of people with disabilities, widows, wives, and dependent children. JFK's era began in 1960 and only lasted for the next 3 years. However, this was an era of many huge movements in social reforms and civil rights. In 1963, JFK delivered the United States' first presidential address on civil rights, followed by legislation that prohibited job discrimination due to race or gender. President Lyndon B. Johnson also continued to fight in furthering the advancement of African Americans and the poor in the United States. Johnson cracked down on the Southern states during 1964, when some Southerners refused to accept the civil rights legislation passed by Kennedy's administration. Johnson also helped countless other Americans by passing legislation like Medicaid, Medicare, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, and the Head Start program. The War on Poverty began in 1964 and consisted of a collection of job training, youth employment, and medical services. It also created local community action programs, or CAAs, to coordinate local programs to help the poor on a local level. In 1964, America also created the Food Stamp Program. This program allowed impoverished people and families to pay for groceries. Families already on welfare were automatically eligible for food stamps, and the entire cost was covered by the Department of Agriculture. The Great Depression and the era after the Great Depression transformed some aspects of the profession of social work. Social work graduate programs grew to last for 2 years and now required a bachelor's degree to attend graduate school. In 1955, the National Association of Social Workers was created when 7 separate social work associations joined together. Overall, during this era, the government and social workers both worked together to secure basic human rights for all Americans.